Hi, I'm Beth Outram, and in this video I'll be discussing intercompany transactions as a part of the SmartBridge series on J.D. Edwards Finance Best Practices. The topics discussed in this video are based on the assumption that you have read the blog entitled Intercompany Transactions, which is also a part of the same SmartBridge series. The very first thing you need to do, of course, is to decide what kinds of intercompany transactions you wish to do. In the article that is written for this series, we had a requirement from a company that we use two groups. One of the groups was going to be only U.S. dollar companies, and one of the groups was going to be Canadian dollar companies. So that was the requirement, is that any of the U.S. dollar companies could trade with each other, but they could not trade with intercompany transactions, the Canadian companies, and vice versa. So that's the setup that we're going to be looking at today. The very first thing that we set up, of course, is our general accounting constants. We have set them up as a number 3, a configured hub, because we want to be able to tell the groups of companies that will trade with each other. So we've made this a 3. And of course, you know that you must fill in these as well. Whether or not you're going to do multi-currency conversions back and forth in your intercompany transactions or not, this must be yes or Z, and this must be allow multi-currency in intercompany transactions. The other constants for the finance group that need to be set up are your accounts payable constants and your accounts receivable constants. The offset method in both of them must be either a Y or an S. A Y tells it one offset per document, and S tells it one offset per pay item. So we've got our constants set up. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our AAIs. In our AAIs, regardless of what type of configuration we use, whether we do hub or non-hub, every single company that you have in your company master, with the exception of a model company, needs to be set up with an ICCC record that defines the intercompany account to be used for that company. So here you see we have 35 ICC records. In our company master, we have 36, but that includes our model company 90,000. We don't need to set that up. If you are doing a hub method other than a 3, you need to have an ICH record, but we'll go into that in more detail later. So we have our AAI set up, we have our constants set up, and now we're going to talk about the configuration master. Here we've set up our two groups, Canadian companies, of which there are 3, and 65500 has been designated as the hub for this group. We also have a USD company, a USD group, of which there are 32, again making a total of 35. And 65000 has been designated as our hub here. So now we're going to jump right in, and we are going to do a voucher entry. So one of the reasons that you might want to do intercompany transactions would be because you have some functions that are centralized to a particular headquarters of a region or a headquarters for all of the companies. For example, the company that we were discussing this with wanted to have centralized accounts payable functions. So all of the accounts payable, regardless of where the goods were received, is going to be paid from the central company. So let's start with US dollars. We're going to say that company 65000, supplier number 64040, and this supplier has set up with US dollars as its currency because I didn't want to mix the currency of the address book in with the currency of the company in this particular demonstration. So we're going to put 3/15/15 as our date. Oh, we need an invoice number. And a gross amount. Let's do $35,000. And say OK. So now we're going to tell it what account number we're going to relieve this from. And at this point, we even can divide this if we wish to. So 65000 was the company that we used when we entered our voucher. So we're going to relieve from two different branches. Oops. 65010.4111, received not vouchered. And I'm going to do it for 17.5. Okay, and then the other portion I'm going to do from my other member company, also received not vouchered. Now I could have done a voucher match with this as well, but I didn't want to get quite that complicated. So here we are now in balance. So we're going to save this transaction, and now we're going to post it. My posting. Oops, too many. So here's my batch. I'm going to go ahead and post it. If you want to see those entries again, obviously we can go in here to the batch and see the entries that we put in. Okay, so here's my voucher, 35,000, and here's my GL distribution out of the two received not vouchered accounts. So let's go ahead and post this. I don't have any batch approvals set up in this environment, so it comes in as an improved status and we can see it immediately. So here's our post. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see it. So you can see that in effect we have transferred our amounts from received not vouchered 65010 and 65020. We've lowered the amount of our liability with a debit, and we've increased the amount of our liability in AP trade for our headquarters company or our hub, if you will. The system has created our intercompany transactions for us. We don't have to do that. And here they are. Balancing transactions back and forth between the two companies. And everything balances. So now let's go back and look at what happens if we wish to try to use entries that would cross hubs. Okay, so let's start here with 65000 again. Still the same vendor number. Different invoice number, so we can avoid having a warning message. Same date. And the gross amount this time is going to be $45,000. And you can see that it takes it out of the GL bank account of the company that we've entered here for this part of the transaction, right? That's where it's going to be paid from. So that's how we centralize our accounts payable function. Now, we're going to try to put in a company from the Canadian hub. And you can see that we immediately get an error that prevents us from doing this. It says that we can't do something that's not, well, let's see what the error message has to say. 65510 is designated as a member company, but it doesn't let you do from hub to a member, particularly in another group. So let's go back. I want to try doing the same transaction using sorry, I probably could have done it back there. We're going to do 45,250. Okay. And this time, let's use account number, the other designated hub in the other group. Now you can see we can go from hub to hub within designated groups with a warning message, but we cannot go from hub to member or from member to hub in different configured groups. So I'm not going to accept this. I'm going to go back again, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about members to hubs. So if I do this, which is my member company, and then I go over here and I put in, and I'm going to do just a partial amount. And you can see that I cannot go from a member company, 65020 is a member company in our USD hub, to the hub of another group in my configured groups. I cannot even go to another member. See, it tells me that my member isn't allowed in that USD hub either, because this company is in my USD hub. This company is in my Canadian hub. So you have two methods that you can use to curtail transactions between two different companies, two different groups of companies, regardless of whether they have different currencies or not. It could be simply that you don't want the Eastern region having intercompany transactions with the Western region, or something like that. So I've shown you what you can do with hubs and with hub designated companies. But now let's go into our configuration master one more time. And what we're going to do this time, instead of having a designated hub, we're going to make every single company in each group members, which means they can trade with each other. There is no designated hub. Okay, so just to go back there and show you, see, they're all members. Okay, let's go back to our voucher entry and add a new voucher. Okay, just for grins, we're going to start with our Canadian company, which means that I'm going to change my vendor. And let's make this amount $75,000 because we're talking about Canadian dollars. Again, you see that it takes it out of the bank account, or will take it out when it's paid, out of the GL bank account for 65500. And then here we can put whoops. Well, that's a good example. I'll show you. You cannot cross cross configured groups, regardless of whether there is a designated hub company or not. It does give you freedoms. Without a designated hub, it does give you more freedom of trade in and among members, though. So let's go back up here and change this account to be what I wanted to show you. Okay, so now we're cool. Additionally, I can go from any company to any company. Okay. So now it's going to come out of my bank account for 65520. And I can go to what was designated as my hub before. Okay. So let's go ahead and post that batch and see what we get. While we're waiting for that, let's go back and talk about the setup in our general accounting constants. Let's say, for example, we didn't care about configuring groups. We just want to do intercompany transactions. There are two different ways that we can do that. We can either do one, which requires an entry of an ICH in your AAIs, which I'll show you. And that means that I'm going to do intercompany transactions that do not look at the configuration master. Or I can simply do detailed intercompany transactions, no hubs, no groups, which again does not require an ICH entry in your AAIs. So let's go to our AAIs and set up an ICH. don't have one. So let me see what my sequence number was here. 245. Okay. ICH. You can only set up one ICH company. And the company's, the business unit of that account, or that AI entry, is believed to be the same as the company number. So generally what you'll see is it looks like this. And so you don't put a business unit in, you have your company's balance sheet business unit will be used. I'm going to put 1291 here. Hub setup. Okay. So let me back up here. And so we can see all of our ICCCs. And our ICH. There's our ICH down here. That is required if you're going to do a number 1 hub intercompany settlements. It is not required for number 2 where you have no hub, and it is not required for number 3 where your hubs are defined within your configuration master. So let's see if our posting has finished. And it has. And here is our posting report. It lowers the balances in your received not vouchered for the 2 companies that we ask it to. Increase the amount in our hub company or our centralized pay region company. And it has made all of our intercompany transactions for us just as we requested. Here's the second voucher that I put in right here. So I hope that this has helped you think about using intercompany transactions. Remember, the 3 main elements are general accounting constants, both the company constants and the accounts payable and accounts receivable constants. Your AIs only need an ICH entry if you're doing number 1. 2 and 3 does not require it. And the configuration master. You are not limited to 2 groups here. You can make as many groups as you need. And it will still, with a 3, it will still prevent you from making entries across the groups without at least a warning message. Have fun with intercompany transactions. I hope this has helped you some. Again, please sign in and use the written part of the blog so that this video helps you more. And I look forward to speaking to you in our next presentation in the Smart Bridge series, J.D. Edwards Finance Best Practices. Talk to you soon.